Look, put yourself in the shoes of the Palestinians, right? And I've seen videos of this. I've read about it. You see Palestinian kids, just going to school, minding their own business, and they get harassed by some kids from a Jewish settler. Some of those kids are older. They're harassing them, taunting them, sometimes doing stuff at them. This is like every single day. Now, that happens everywhere, right? But those settlements are being built closer and closer to, the West Bank, Palestinian territories, right? I mean, the Palestinians have a right to their territory. They was there before the creation of Israel in general. A Jewish settlement is being built on the Palestinian land. The homeowners that live there are protesting it. Half of them, if not most of the Palestinians that live in the West Bank, I would say half, are Christian. So we're not talking, terrorism, suicide bomb. We're not talking all that. You know what I'm saying? We're talking, rights, right? Human beings. And they contested, they protested. They tell the construction was there, we don't want this here. First, they do it the way anybody else would do it. They write to the local council people, police, call the police, say, like, we don't want this being built here. And like any other system, there's stuff they gotta go through, and it's not fast enough. And they're still building the Jewish settlement. Sometimes the construction workers are there in the middle of the night, and they have to call to stop it because people have to go to sleep. And this is like day to day, and we're just talking the West Bank. And then these, and so they get a little active, they protest, right in front of the settlement. And so the Jewish settlers, sometimes they get a little violent, and but sometimes they'll call because the Israeli police and the IDF are everywhere, right? The IDF comes, the Palestinians are trying to explain to them the situation, but eventually, either that day or the next day, the IDF soldier blames the Palestinians and say, hey, look, you got to get out of here or else we shoot you. Because most of the IDF soldiers are Israeli as well. It's a militant society. The reason why so many, when October 7th happened, which I'm completely against, the reason why it happened, when it happened, the reason why they killed so many civilians, they were civilians that day, but a lot of them were IDF soldiers. They weren't in service at that day, at that point. And the reason why there were so many IDF soldiers, off-duty IDF soldiers, civilians killed, was because a lot of Israelis joined the IDF. It's easy money for them, I guess, and they have this strong belief in their system and in their religion, because a lot of it is religion. And I don't support Hamas. I'm not, we're just talking the West Bank. Now, we can talk about Gaza. And in Gaza, it's like an open-air prison. Can't go close to the wall. The Israeli snipers will snipe you out. They'll snipe the children out, too. And, a lot of people would say, well, what about the suicide bombings that took place a long time ago? That's why they have checkpoints. And that is true. And in some cases, they were using kids. And look, that's terrorism. We don't support that. But the war on the Palestinians started to take place before the creation of Israel. So the Palestinians were already there. The Jewish settlers were pushing in, because the Hasidic people, they tend to have lots of kids. So when we say settlers, we're really talking about Hasidic people, right? We got Jewish settlements in Brooklyn, and most of them are Hasidic. So we're talking Hasidic people, and they have lots of kids on purpose. They tend to have 12, maybe more than that. They call it their legacy. That's what one Hasidic person told me and my stepfather and my mother. It's a legacy, because he saw the picture on the wall. He's like, man, you got a lot of kids. He said, oh, it's for legacy. To me, it's overpopulation, but not allowed to say that, right? But so these Jewish settlers, they have so many kids, and they want their kids. Each of those kids want to have their own apartment. So these settlements have to be built. They have to be built, more in, and that's where you had the conflict. And this was before Israel was created. Now let's go back to the present. Let's come back to the present. So you got these checkpoints. Most Palestinians are not terrorists. Most Palestinians probably don't support Hamas. Some of them do, some of them don't. And it gets complicated when you're talking about, like, the political system of the Palestinians, you know. But I don't support Hamas. And of course, you know, there was that civil war that took place under Obama. I think it was 2011, between Hamas and Fatah. Fatah was the one that was doing the suicide bombings. So, but we're talking everyday Palestinians, right? We're talking something that's been going on before the creation of Israel, where Palestinians are minding their own business and they keep getting harassed by Jewish settlers. Palestinian children keep getting harassed by Jewish kids, you know. This was going on since before Israel was created, where you have these harassments going on and stuff. Now you got the IDF soldiers, right? So, you know, there was a documentary. Well, there's a lot of documentaries. There's one called Death in Gaza. And so at the end of the documentary, which I have at home, you know, the journalist he's a British. Both of them were British, men and women. They were trying to do a documentary about how both sides were wrong. So the documentary was not about being anti-Israel. It was showing how both sides were wrong and how the conflict affects the children. And they were trying to show, you know, the damage done by the rockets that were hitting Israel. But the family that they were staying with, their home was being threatened with bulldozing, and they were fighting it. The producer was out there trying to figure out why he wanted to bulldoze the house. At the end of the documentary, at nighttime, there was a tank there, and you know, they were threatening to bulldoze the home. I guess if the families don't get out, the children were scared. You know, they're huddling with the parents. So the producer and the co-producer, they didn't know what to do. So he goes out and said, hey, I'm a producer. You know, he shows his, you know, his ID, white flag, everything. He shot and killed him. I believe the snipers were Arab contractors, because they contract Arabs to support the IDF. So they shot and killed him at the end of the documentary, even though they knew he was a journalist. You know what I'm saying? They had the ID and everything, and they didn't care. So that's how the documentary ended. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that's a murder, right? That's a war crime. I don't believe. And the home was bulldozed later on. So that whole family became homeless. See, that didn't have to happen. So you have to ask yourself, okay, why do they want to bulldoze his home? I mean, look, I get it, nobody's perfect, and I'm seeing these live streamers and these podcasters who I agree with. A lot of the ones that I follow, I agree with. If not 100% of the time, 99% of the time. But I understand they're not perfect. So a lot of them, some of them seem to be ignorant about the suffering of the Palestinians. A lot of them seem to be ignorant about that or indifferent about it. So that's on them. That's on them. But Palestinians have a right to the land. They can't just move to Egypt, all of them. I don't think Egypt will want all of them to move with them. Like I think I said in another video, Palestinians have their own identity. They have their own culture, own struggle. But if you believe in justice, right? And I've seen people on YouTube believe in justice. I'm not naming names, because I agree with them most of the time. But how can you... Well, if you support Trump, then obviously there's a split between the Trump supporters. The ones that support Israel and the ones that don't support Israel. And a lot of people voted for Trump. Not me, but people in my family. All kinds of people voted for Trump. All kinds. Every race, religion, even immigrants. Same way George Herbert Walker Bush back in the day. And George W. Bush. A lot of people voted for both of them. But there's a split between the ones that are against the Israeli government and for the Israeli government. In my family, the few relatives in my family that voted for Trump are against Israel because they feel like Jewish people always get whatever they want. It's just true. It's true most of the time. And we're talking the religious right of the Jewish religion, the Hasidic people, the Satmars, as well as the Israeli government. And I didn't bring this up because I had to make sure I say the right thing. They don't have free healthcare, but they have universal healthcare. They don't have to pay too much. And the funny thing is, they have a system because the country exists because of us. We give them money, we give them weapons, we give them all kinds of things. That's why they exist. If it wasn't for us supporting Israel, Israel would not exist. It will be like the Palestinian land. It will be just a Jewish land. But what happened between the Palestinians and the Jewish settlers is going to happen anyway, regardless if we supported Israel or not. And so this is something that was going on before any of us was born. And it has a lot to do with religion and how, Hasidic people view other religions and other people. Obviously, if they believe they're the chosen one, they're not going to look at other people the same way. I came across a video last year around this time, and there was an Israeli woman. She wasn't Hasidic, but she was Jewish, and of course, and she was acting. She looked the kind of way. She was like this. I thought she was gonna have a nervous breakdown. It looked like she already had a nervous breakdown. She looked like she was going through menopause, and she said that she feels America is not supporting Israel the way that he should. And Trump is always back and forth. One minute he supports you, next he does that with Israel as well, Netanyahu. And real rich guys like him, that's the way they are. You can't trust them. So she makes a threat. She says if America doesn't support Israel 100%, America is going to get what's coming to him. And then she mentioned something about who she prays for and how they're going to curse America. And she goes on this whole religious good versus evil thing, like as if my country is evil. Some of it, not all of it. Now, my government is corrupt. It's evil. It's greedy. But the way she said it, she meant it. She was also talking about people like me, Americans who don't support the Israeli government or to the Kid Party. Now, I support Israel having a right to exist. but I don't believe in we should be arming Israel or giving anything to Israel. So she was talking to people like me, but then she was talking to the whole country, and I took offense to that as a an American, because as much as I don't like the government, I love this country. This country is beautiful physically, the people and the trees and the wildlife and the land, and this is my country. It's the only language I know how to speak, And I took it personal. I was like, who the hell do you think you are? And I had older cousins that were in the military, and family members who have friends who have sons and daughters that are in the military. Some of the sons I grew up with. So, I took offense to that, and I should have shared it. But it shows you how arrogant and how special Israelis think they are sometimes. And we're like that too sometimes. We're arrogant and we think we're special. But it's not wide. It's not universal here in this country. Because I don't think I'm arrogant. I don't think I'm special. Most of us are the same way. Is maybe the ones that have a podcast or a radio show that be talking that way, talking real arrogant. But the rest of us, we don't care what religion we are. If you respect our neighborhood, you respect our country, you respect our people, we respect you. So I took offense to that. I'm like, well, yeah, F you. You know what I'm saying? Who you think you are threatening my country? Yeah, we're not perfect, but a lot of people that join the army just join because they want to, because it's good money. And some of them are only children, so they want to be in the National Guard so they can help fight fires and floods here in this country and help the infrastructure and patrol the borders too. I'm not wrong with that. I support borders. I don't support open borders. That's not a conservative thing or a liberal thing. That's whoever comes to this country has to be legally in this country. We have to know who they are. You have to know the Americans, everything. And it's good to know that they can speak English, but the immigration problem is our government's fault too, because we give work visas to immigrants so they could come here and work, but they don't speak English, and then they overstay the visas most of the time, and the track record on them is not that good either. So I don't even know if I support work visas, but I do support immigrants coming into this country illegally. We have to change it. We have to change to where only people who legally come to this country, legally go to the process, learn English, take the classes, say the swears, whatever you call them. Those are the people that should stay, to come to the country and stay. So even before the open borders and before the border problem, which has to do with a lot of our foreign policy to Mexico, we were letting work visas overstay. I'm not just talking about Bill Clinton. I'm talking about George Herbert Walker Bush. That's when it really started. And he's a Republican. A supporter of the Bay of Pigs. He was involved in the Bay of Pigs back in '62. So all the immigration problems started under him. So for all you Bay of Pigs supporters, just letting you know. So the Israelis don't have they have an arrogant view about themselves, and that they think they're special, they think they're chosen, they think God chose them, and they think that gives them the right to kill children. I mean, outright point blank, snipe children out, snipe families, bulldoze homes, bomb whole neighborhoods, hospitals, media buildings, and we look the other way, of course, because a lot of those weapons we give to them, so we could be found guilty of that. And there's blood. Everybody in our government has blood in their hands. It's not just Republicans, it's Democrats too. It's Chuck Schumer. Whatever office Chuck Schumer ran on, he ran uncontested. that office should be suspended. We don't need that. We don't even need Chuck Schumer. What's he there for? He made his career doing advocacy in Brooklyn as a local council person. Now, that's his claim to fame. But Chuck Schumer doesn't care about freedom or democracy or justice or rights for the Palestinians. He don't even care about that. He's saying he's probably racist towards Palestinians. So yeah, and there's a guy, I believe he's some kind of politician from Israel. Don't care what his name is. I should know, but I don't really care. He's planning on running against either Netanyahu or he's running as prime minister after Netanyahu leaves. If Netanyahu doesn't stay, you know how these leaders are. Maduro was the same way. I don't support Maduro. I'm against what happened in Venezuela, but I don't support Maduro staying in a third term. But this guy from Israel wants to go to war with Turkey and Qatar. He says Turkey is the new Iran. He wants Turkey. We all know. If you don't know, then we explain to you. He wants Turkey because they wanna build more land in Turkey. They want to take the Turkish land. They want to take Qatar land. They want to build more settlements there, more Jewish settlements. That's why he wants to go to war with these. It's a plan. It's a sick religious plan because they think they're the chosen one to expand into Turkey, Qatar. They're already expanding into Syria. They're bombing Lebanon so they can expand into Lebanon if they haven't already. So, So this is what's going on. And I'm kind of disappointed that still so many people who are doing what I do, going on video, having a podcast, or doing live streams, are not on board with what I'm saying, because there is no reason to support Israel. There is no reason to support Saudi Arabia, right? Saudi Arabia is another one. They chop women's heads off. I don't support Saudi Arabia. We give them weapons too, give them fuel, give them money. So, but back to Israel. So Israel thinks they have a right to also control our policy. Netanyahu makes these speeches talking to us Americans, saying why we have to support him, and yada yada yada. And then they got a former mayor, Eric Adams, New York City, pretending to be Jewish, going to the wall and all that, but not visiting Gaza or the West Bank. You're going to visit a country, visit the whole country, visit everybody, talk to everybody, hear both sides. Don't just hear one side. And just to let you know, on a side note, some more of former Mayor Eric Adams' cronies have been charged now with bribery, for building homeless shelters and stuff like that. So it's still going on, and I'm hoping that they reopen. The Southern District of New York City reopens the investigation into Eric Adams. I hope they do, because his people are still being investigated and charged. You know what I'm saying? It's nonstop. It's just gonna keep going. So, and I called it. I called it maybe 2-3 years ago that he was gonna try to run for president. I knew. Now he can't. But he was positioning himself to try to make a run for it. That's why he was visiting all these other countries like Ecuador and Mexico and whatever else he went to visit. I think he went to Turkey also. Yeah, bro, most likely. But so we have a New York City mayor who's who's Muslim. He's from India originally. Well, complicated, but I think he was in South Africa, but he's Indian by descent. And they're trying to discredit him. They, trying to say that there's going to be all kinds of terrorism in New York City underneath him. Even though you have some Jewish guy that just got arrested for planting pipe bombs, and I mean, it goes both ways. But this is all, this is all propaganda. APEC does control politicians. I don't know if they control the media, but there's people who support APEC, who support Israel, that are trying to control the media, including the guy that runs CBS. He's he's pro-Israeli, and he's against using the word Zionist. So they're already trying to do that, and I think that needs to be addressed. And I'm surprised that most streamers and podcasters, you have the freedom to say whatever you want to say, almost, not really. And you're not calling out the obvious. You just want to support Israel because you're afraid of Iran. Let me explain. Iran was the most crippled country in the world. There were all kinds of sanctions and embargoes by us, the United States, by the EU, and by the UN. They all had embargoes and sanctions against Iran. Iran had no power. They were crippled. They were the most crippled country in the world. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't even get baby drones from China if they wanted to. So, unless they're trying to now, but that's why they're using these baby drones, these little toy drones, that cause damage, but they don't really kill nobody. But they are doing damage with the, blowing up the oil refineries, and I think they took down a big radar plane in the U.S. I was shocked by that. They ain't kill anybody on board. It's like Iran is purposely not trying to kill anyone, which I'm shocked, because I don't support Iran at all. I don't support the mullahs, but unlike us, when we bombed Iran, we killed a whole school of girls, So, that's a war crime right there. It wasn't the bombing wasn't approved. The strike wasn't approved by Congress. That's an illegal strike. That's an illegal war. A strike is a strike. It's a war. We're at war with Iran. It's an illegal war. It wasn't approved by Congress. We killed innocent people, just like we killed innocent people in Venezuela. Trump could be impeached, but Chuck Schumer supports it, so that's why he's not going to get impeached. The only way we could get Trump impeached is if people go to D.C., you know what I'm saying? Like, for real, and just do what they did leading up to the war in Iraq, or when we were speaking out against the war in Iraq. And so if Trump leaves office, which I hope, knowing Trump, I think he's going to try to run that third term. We can have him arrested, but he should be removed from office. We have to start somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, there's a lot of questions about Obama, especially with the disappearance of MH370, the Malaysian flight that disappeared. I believe, once again, that our government did something to that plane. And I believe Obama knows, Hillary knows, they was in on it. He supported it. That's a war crime. That's mass murder. Yeah, Obama should be, investigated, deposed. Forced to do a deposition. Hillary Clinton as well. Of course, they're gonna probably lie to the chief. Lie through their teeth, and also, bring in the head of the Navy, head of the CIA at the time, in 2014, and so there's enough blame to go around. But if we could get Trump while he's in office, then we can, start domino effect. We can go after Obama. We could, this is not a Democrat or Republican thing, but the problem is Chuck Schumer wants it to be that. The Democratic Party is run by warmongers as well, so they're gonna make this a Republican thing. They support Obama, they support Hillary Clinton. They're not gonna go after Obama for what happened for the disappearance of the Malaysian flight. So it's almost like we're stuck with two evils, and we have to live with them. And again, I blame us. If we're saying we support Israel too much, we shouldn't be giving weapons to Israel. Well, who's giving weapons to Israel right now? It was Trump. Who supported Trump? The majority of Americans. We supported him. You know what I'm saying? So we have ourselves to blame. But Americans don't want to blame themselves. So we want to turn the other way and wait for the next election. That's the problem. That's the big problem. So we're here in this forever war. And there's going to be war forever, for a long time. As long as we don't accept our responsibility for putting Trump in office, for putting Obama in office, then it's our fault. Then we're not gonna blame ourselves, and we're just gonna let the system, continue until a collapse happens. And there's gonna be a collapse. It's gonna be. I believe. I don't want to see it for sure, because then the next day I'm like, there's not gonna be a collapse. But at the end of the year, I think it's the way everything is going. But back to Israel. Netanyahu is under investigation for corruption, right? He should be removed from office. The president should just arrest him with anything, and just have elections, emergency elections, right? He's also a mass murderer. He's a war criminal. Half of the people that run the IDF and the Mossad are all mass murderers and criminals. They should all be thrown in prison. And that goes for any government. I'm just talking about Israel right now. And there's no excuse for supporting Israel. There's no excuse for saying, oh, we have to because of Iran. Iran was crippled. They can't do shit. Iran doesn't have the weapons that Israel has, because they have our weapons. We give them weapons. We don't give none. Iran, we have sanctions on Iran. That's what we give them. We give them hell. Okay, Iran has no power. Okay, forget about Iran. Iran is no threat to nobody. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely not a threat to us. Iran was not going to strike anybody. Okay, Marco Rubio is a liar. He's a liar. His family he got relatives that are criminals in Miami. So, they're not gonna look into that. But I think Marco Rubio has an uncle that was like a gun runner or something. I mean, it's the criminals that are running the office. But Marco Rubio's a liar. He lied. Iran wasn't gonna strike anybody. We are the most powerful nation in the world. We have military bases everywhere. Iran wasn't going to do nothing. And that was a lie. That was a lie. So if Israel does decide to bomb Turkey, was Marco Rubio going to say, oh, well, Turkey was going to strike Israel, even though Turkey was supposed to be our ally? I mean, it's all BS, man. People are going to see right through it. I think most Americans see right through that. At least on that side of the Trump administration, I mean, they got to see something, because this is obviously propaganda. This is psyops, And of course, the CIA works with the Mossad, so in order to get rid of Israel, to get rid of our support for Israel, we got to get rid of the CIA. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to get rid of the CIA, and we got to get rid of the CIA and dismantle it. Have somebody in power that's willing to start a movement to dismantle the CIA, because the CIA should not exist. And quite frankly, I don't think the Pentagon should exist either, because we existed without the Pentagon. You know what I'm saying? There was no Pentagon back before 1940 something or whatever the Pentagon was created. We go back to the 30s, 20s. We had no Pentagon. So, it's what it is. This is a solution to everything, but we have to kind of take accountability for our country supporting Israel. And I don't think we're doing that, because we want to take accountability for supporting the two-party system. And as long as we're hard-headed, as long as we get angry whenever somebody tells us not to vote Democrat or Republican, this country will never change. It's never, ever going to change. We're going to stay in poverty. We're going to have crime. We are going to have corruption. We are going to have war forever. it would never stop because of us. Because we continue to vote to the war party system. It's our fault. It's our fault, bro. And some people say, well, fuck it. It's just going to stay that way forever. We can't change it. So if we can't change it, what makes you think you're going to make money doing what you do? What's keeping you from living a better life, and what's keeping the rents from being more lower is the people that we put in office. If we keep voting for those people, it's going to get worse. So how you say, oh, it's gonna be like this forever? Well, then you're gonna end up homeless, right? Because you won't be able to afford to stay in this country. So this can't stay like this forever. Now, it's because I can't tell people what to do. Because we Americans are hard-headed, you know. We want to believe what we want to believe. But this is the answer I have. You know, and you know. And anybody has a different answer, you know, you can comment on my YouTube channel, you know what I'm saying? Because I would like to hear what y'all have to say. But that's the solution. That's the only solutions I could come up with. Of course, we will have to start a movement. But it takes a lot of work and a lot of time, and I don't think I have the time. Because we all work in regular jobs, so. And none of us have a lot of money. So it's going to take a lot. But we could use our voting powers and our knowledge of doing some research and saying, you know what? I'm not going to vote for this Democrat or this Republican anymore. You know, I'm going to vote for a third party. I'm going to see what's available. And I'm not going to listen to the people in the cable news who are going to convince you. They seem like nice people, but they're going to convince you, no, you have to vote Republican. You can't vote third party because that's worse than the Democrat. They're socialists too. And the Democrats say, oh, you can't vote for third party. You're not going to win. And if you vote for third party, the Democrats are going to lose and the Republicans are going to stay in power. And Mark Rubio, it's all BS. It's a psyops. They're lying to you, bro. They're lying. They're freaking lying. We can vote for whoever we want to vote for. I don't need no idiots on CNN or Fox News or AM radio or even some of these dumb, stupid-ass political podcasters telling me who to vote for. You vote for them, we're going to vote for who we want to vote for. If I want to vote for Cynthia McKinney, I'm going to vote for Cynthia McKinney. If I want to vote for Jill Stein, I'll vote for Jill Stein. If I want to vote for Rocky Anderson, I'll vote for Rocky Anderson. If I want to vote for Ralph Nader, I'm going to vote for Ralph Nader. And that's it. And whoever else might be the potential third-party candidate that might get enough votes, you know? Because at the end of the day, we're Americans, right? We're not supposed to listen to authority. We're not supposed to listen to the media. We're not supposed to listen to politics. We're supposed to do what we feel is right. Because that's the whole point about having an America, right? The American Revolution was all about rebelling against British authority, rebelling against British rule, against royalty, right? Against power. So that's what we want. We want people in power to tell us how to vote and what to do, propagandize us. Nah. We be Americans. The real revolution is when we all decide to vote third party. And remember, George Washington was not a Republican or Democrat. And I'm not gonna say what time country was different back then, but I'm just saying. Just like here in New York City, I'm in Jersey City now, but over in New York City, right across the river, there were third-party candidates that won local office in Brooklyn. Yes, they were. So it's possible. It happens all the time in Brooklyn. Most of the council people in Brooklyn are not, some of them are not Democrats or Republicans. So you've already seen that balance in Brooklyn. We'll bring that balance to City Hall, and then one day bring that balance to Washington. You know, and that's how you do it. Of course, there's a lot we have to do in this country as far as divorces and kids being raised without fathers, and mothers raising the kids the right way, or fathers raising the kids the right way, or both parents raising the kids the right way. And that's, quite obviously that hasn't been happening. And now I know people my age who have kids, and their kids are outside, and their kids are grown now, and they're in prison. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like that sort of thing makes it tough. But those are the solutions that I have, and I think those are more accurate than anybody else's solutions. And but I said this a long time ago. The people in power are like psychopaths. They psychopaths. They love to see blood. They love to take over shit, and it's a problem. But that says a lot about our society, right? Why there's so many people vote for this crazy nut job Trump? Because a lot of people are crazy. Maybe they'll show it, but they want to be as crazy as Trump. And they love to see the BS. They love to have a president that makes fun of people and do this and does that, but doesn't do anything for anybody, if you really think about it. So, and Netanyahu is he's a liar. He's a psychopath. And I haven't even mentioned the various war crimes that Israel committed before 2011, and all the bombings. But in their society, they accept that, right? Like when they bombed Gaza in 2011 or 2012, I believe, the Israelis were sitting on the cliffs, opening up their beach chairs and just sitting and watching the bombings take place. And everybody has to understand that everything that happens comes from somewhere. It didn't just because they're Muslim and they want to blow themselves up. Nah, this was specifically because Jewish settlers were having too many kids. They started building more and more and started moving into Palestinian land, and that's where a lot of the craziness happened. And then Israel was created, and then the United States started supporting them 100%, and that's where we're at right now. And I could relate to the Palestinians. Me personally, I could relate to the Palestinians more because in my old neighborhood in Williamsburg, they got us out because they wanted to build. They already built a synagogue right there, and they wanted to make our small little building a small Jewish building. And there's Jewish settlements all over that little area in Williamsburg. It's a whole bunch of them. And they took the older shop where my mother's cousin used to work at. That's a Jewish settlement now. There used to be a gas station right across the street diagonally. They took that, and there's a Jewish settlement there now. See what I'm saying? They want to take over everything. That's how they work. That's how they, and it's the religion. It's certain aspects of the religion, not all Jewish people. I know there's different kinds of Jewish religions like Kabbalah and all that. But yeah, that's what they want to do over there as well. That's what they've been doing. So the people that I look at myself like I'm a Palestinian, like we got moved out because of this, because they want to build settlements. And my uncle, he sold his house, our house. He didn't have to, but he wanted the money, gave it to them. They took over kind of the rest of that little block, and then they took over the whole next block. It's a small street, and the elementary school is still there. But this is like a religious thing, really. And that woman who threatened the United States, that's That's how they see it. Of course, there are a lot of Jewish people in the United States. So when she says whoever she prays to is gonna curse America, I guess that means they're gonna curse Jewish people here too. But I don't like it when anybody threatens America. I mean, the people, the United States land, not our military bases. Because my opinion, we're not even supposed to be in other people's countries. We're just there because we want power. We want to control the airs and the seas, because that's our ambition. That's what people in power want to do. All people in power want to control the rivers and the land, seas. But yeah, I think, and is it not me being anti-Semitic, by the way, because I don't hate Jewish people, but it's more of a reality check, because I'm not really that religious anyway. So I'm not atheist, but I'm not religious. So that's about it. I'm just gonna, end this video out right now because it's a little too long. Because I think I wanted to say what I wanted to say. All right, peace.